If you've ever been to a Mexican restaurant, been to Mexico, or are Mexican, you may have heard of pozole. Pozole is a Central American stew made from two main ingredients, hominy and some kind of meat like pork or chicken. It's usually eaten with various toppings like chopped onions, avocado, cilantro, radishes, etc. The dish comes in three main varieties, pozole blanco, pozole rojo, and pozole verde. Pozole verde and rojo have additives like dried chilies or tomatillos to give them their distinctive red and green colors, while pozole blanco has no additives, creating a white colored soup. Pozole is eaten on special occasions like Christmas Eve. In this video, I'm going to be doing a tutorial on how to cook pozole blanco, as well as how to make hominy for the soup. Pozole has more to it, though, than what you may see at first glance. This dish has a connection to Aztec religion and cosmology and is related to rituals like human sacrifice and cannibalism, as well as the Aztecs' belief in the sacredness of corn. The recipe I used for this pozole said that it required 3 kilograms of hominy. I had a 3 kilogram bag of dried corn, so I just assumed that it would be a good idea to dump all of the corn into a pot and try to nixtamalize it all at once. This was a bad idea because I ended up making an inhuman amount of hominy, and the dried corn swelled, and I had to transfer some of it to another pot to prevent it from boiling over. Also, since I had such a large amount of corn, I ended up scorching some of the hominy because stirring it was difficult. I also had the eye way too hot, and this probably contributed to the scorching as well. All that being said, I'm going to provide instructions on how to nixtamalize corn to make hominy that is not actually what I did and what I think would work better. What you need to nixtamalize the corn and make the hominy is some dried corn, calcium hydroxide, also called cal in Spanish, a large pot, and water. First, what you do is measure out the dried corn. Like I said earlier, 3 kilograms of dry corn is not equal to 3 kilograms of hominy. And anyways, I only used about 1.5 kilograms of hominy for the recipe anyways. So add about 1 kilogram of dried corn to the pot and fill it with water so that the corn is covered by an inch. Adding 1 kilogram should increase in weight to 1.5 kilograms. Add 1% of the corn's weight in calcium hydroxide. So in this case, 1% of 1 kilogram is 1 gram. Stir it to incorporate the calcium hydroxide and make sure it's touching all the corn kernels, and then bring the water to a boil. Once the water is boiling, lower the heat to about medium and keep the lid on. This will reduce it to a simmer. Let it simmer for 20 minutes, stirring occasionally to prevent it from burning the corn and to keep the calcium hydroxide well incorporated. After this, you want to turn off the heat and let it sit overnight. You should come back to it in the morning and find hominy in the pot. Put the hominy in a colander and wash it thoroughly to get all of the calcium hydroxide off of it because you don't want to eat that. And then set it aside and have it ready to add to the pozole when we reach that step. One of the possible ancestors of pozole is an Aztec ritual dish called tlacatlaoli. This dish also is mainly comprised of meat and cooked corn. In Aztec religion, corn consists of two parts, a physical and visible part and a spiritual part. This spiritual part is referred to as the heart of maize or corn spirit. The corn spirit makes corn not only nourishing to the body, but also to the soul, meaning that by eating corn, one will bring blessings upon themselves. Corn is also holy for a slightly more intriguing reason that I will go into later. After you've prepared the hominy, what you need for the rest of the pozole is a 3-pound pork shoulder or Boston butt, 4 cloves of garlic, 3 bay leaves, 2 tablespoons of oregano, and 1 teaspoon of cumin. Take your pork shoulder, cut it into 1 to 1/2 inch cubes. Remember, someone has to eat this with a spoon, so don't leave your chunks too big. Next, rough chop your 4 cloves of garlic. Get a Dutch oven or another large pot and coat the bottom with oil. Turn the eye on medium. You'll know your pot is hot enough when water will sizzle if you put a little bit into the oil. At the same time, get a pot with 4 quarts of water and bring it to a boil. In batches, put your pork chunks into the pot like so. In this stage, you're just browning the pork, so don't worry about cooking it through. Just make the outside look like this. Once each batch is done, transfer it to a plate with a paper towel. In your last batch, add the rough chopped garlic into the pot and let it brown with the pork. After that, add the garlic, pork, spices, make sure to rub the oregano between your fingers for better flavor, and hominy to the boiling pot of water. Also make sure to add any melted fat and fond, which is the meat stuff that sticks to the bottom of the pot, to the boiling water as well. Add more water if the stew looks too dry. Turn the heat to low and cover it and let it simmer. You're going to want to cook it for an hour and a half, stirring occasionally to prevent anything from burning. You can simmer it for longer, but about an hour and a half is enough to cook the pork through and make it tender. That really is the goal. As long as you make the pork tender and it's cooked through, you've succeeded. You can cook it longer to add more flavor. You'll know it's tender enough if you can cut a chunk of pork in half with a spoon. You would want to add salt and pepper to suit your taste at this point because it's a little bland otherwise. I said earlier that one of the possible origins of pozole is a ceremonial dish made from corn and meat. However, I didn't specify what kind of meat. Unlike the chicken or pork that is in pozole, tlacatlaoli was made with the flesh of a sacrificed enemy warrior. The Aztecs believed that the gods required human blood in order to remain healthy and to continue to keep the natural world in order. The sun god was where a lot of the sacrificial focus went to, though. The sun god now is actually the fifth sun god, and the other four died in cataclysmic events in the past, and the fifth is destined to suffer the same fate if he's not kept strong by sacrifice. So the Aztecs made human sacrifices to stave off the fifth sun's death. In some cases, the sacrificed person was eaten, and this was because sacrificed flesh was considered to be a holy thing that would bring holiness upon a person if they ate it. This is where the intriguing other reason for corn's holiness comes from. In Aztec culture, corn was viewed as being human in the sense that eating corn gave the same spiritual benefits as eating a sacrifice. So in the case of tlacatlaoli, putting two holy food items in the same dish just makes sense in order to gain maximum benefit. Now that the base of the pozole is cooked, you want to make your toppings. So slice up an avocado, a lime, a radish, and some cabbage. Also have some sprigs of cilantro. Put your pozole into a bowl and top with your toppings. It should be ready to eat now. In this video, I hope to have shown how pozole is related to Aztec religion, even if it's not apparent at first. The reason I brought up this connection in the first place is because this idea of food being connected to something broader and weightier than what it may seem to be related to at first can be applied to many other foods, and not just pozole. Recognizing these connections in one's own food, as well as in the foods of other cultures, can give you a new perspective or a deeper understanding of both your own culture and the cultures of others.